To ensure that those who are attending virtually and in person can hear the proceedings, and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you wait for the microphone and speak clearly into the microphone. Please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to each other by first name. When addressing council, please stand if you are able to do so. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore, if I'm hearing a constant two-tone alarm, please leave the building via your nearest marked fire exit and make your way downstairs to the nearest assembly point, which is the short stay car park. Lifts are not to be used. Please do not take time to pick up personal belongings and leave the building promptly. Can I have apologies for absence, please?
Thank you, Chair. I have apologies from Councillors Bishop, Denton, Sealever, Lovering, Maddox, Broome, Spear, Stevenson, Whitehead and York. And we have Councillor Orange joining us virtually.
Item 3, Chair's announcements. There's just one. Sorry, item 2, can we please approve the minutes of the last meeting? Right. Moved by Councillor Warden, seconded by Councillor Warman. All those in favour? That's passed. Thank you. Chair's announcements. The only announcement I have tonight is probably one that we should all be doing is please can you make sure that your boxers training is up to date. Another one came out about a week ago. They only take a couple of minutes each and they're really good. So thank you. Item 4, there is none. Item 5, there is none. Item 6, to consider the following motion, notice a motion from Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. This motion has moved. This motion was originally going to be submitted a couple of months ago, but the winter fuel allowance motion sort of superseded it in terms of priority. So since this motion was put forward, details have moved on quite significantly. Councillor Lee has been working with the other officers in order to really bring forward something more useful and more manageable, which we hope to bring in time for January. So I would want to remind the council that we do fully support the idea of improving the Tarka line between Barnstaple and Exeter. There is a goal on the table that we could potentially have 2 trains now in each direction and a far more efficient service with a notable knock-on effect that would help residents as far as Bideford and Ilfracombe. So we have a real opportunity here. I think I will resubmit this motion in 2 months' time.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Councillor, item B, consider the following notice motion from Councillor Burns, protecting the British family farms and rural communities.
Thanks, Jane. I hope I can read my notes. I'm not a contact lens, so just firstly to thank Madam Chairman, members of Devon Council and Councillor Flannery to forward this motion. First, I just want to clarify my position. Although I spent my lifetime in farming and plus working in agricultural research and advice, I'm now retired, therefore I do not derive any income from farming, and I have no relative who would benefit from the income tax, the inheritance tax measures. I'm presenting this motion subsequent to the work we've been doing as a council this year, purely to support North Devon farmers in this extremely troubling time for them. I've never known farmers so angry and so concerned, and I don't expect you to have either. Hopefully, we were all followed in the press and on the TV what changes in the inheritance tax are proposed. So I'll just comment with my own views on how important our own farms and those across the UK are to all and need protection from this impossible tax burden. As you know, farming is the backbone of our North Devon economy, essential in so many ways to all sectors of our other industries, such as tourism, etc. But farming is based on small to medium family farms, which are most affected by the present government's budget proposals to remove the current farm exemption from the inheritance tax. I sound to be corrected, but I don't know any large farms owned by non-farming investment companies here in North Devon, which the government thinks this tax will only target. Current proposals will be for farms worth under 1 million to be exempt. I put that in inverted commas, as there are no viable working farms worth so little. Yes, there are lifestyle houses with a few paddocks, but for a farm to be viable, you are talking about 250 acres plus at least. Those at current land value prices would come within the 20% tax bracket for the inheritance tax to be due. This would affect some 70,000 farms and does not take into account the business property relief situation as well, which is not included in the 500 farms assessed to be affected by the government's figures. I know there are questions why farmers should be exempt and not other businesses, and understand that, but farmers are an exception, which is why the exemption was originally brought in. The reason is that farmers are in business to produce food, without which none of us would survive, would we? And thus their industry needs protecting for everyone's sake. This takes me to my first impact motion, in my first mention in a motion. In these increasingly troubling and dangerous times of international conflict, we do need to protect and produce more food to increase our self-sufficiency in food supply. This was ignored in the 1930s and was the reason that after World War II grants were introduced to aid food production, and we mustn't get in that situation again. Farming brings an immediate 0.15 return on investment, so farmers don't have the capital set aside to pay a tax which they cannot budget for. Farmers are asset rich but cash poor. They may appear to be rich with all the land and property they own, but it's all tied up in their business, isn't it? Most farmers receive less than a minimum wage for the hours they work, and surely are the epitome of the government's working man, so need protection and not to be saddled with a tax burden for which they have no means to pay without selling off a portion of their land. Who would buy that land anyway? Most probably non-food producing investors. We must also support our farmers, as if farmers are forced to leave the industry, it will also affect our other rural industries too. We have here in North Devon probably the biggest agricultural retail outlet in the country. We employ over 2,000 people. There are also other allied industries such as contractors, feed firms, agronomists, vets, etc., etc. Then there's the money farming puts into our shops, etc. The list goes on. Farming is essential to keep the rural economy going. Then we have the new environmental schemes farmers are being encouraged to get involved in. Up to the small farms relied on the previous BPS payments so much to cover their costs, and these are now nearly completely phased out. The new SMI schemes, although admirable, were not bringing anything like the previous grants, and in themselves do not encourage food production. Also, they're very complicated to apply for, and response is very slow from the RPEA who administer them, so delays are already in place in payments. And then we have the issue of mental health. I'm sure you've seen the clearly stressed and upset farmers interviewed on TV in the last few days, fearful for their families' futures. Working on farms can be very isolated when the mind can stray to very sad outcomes. With elderly farmers in the 70s, 80s and beyond, and even older, still working and hanging on to their family farms for succession purposes, I've heard them say they would be better off dead before this tax is imposed. Now that's an awful thing to have to think, isn't it? Family farms are homes where successive generations so anyway, work to improve the land to pass on, and the knowledge of how each farm and the land works is invaluable. So how that farm succeeds and cannot be replicated any other way. Anyway, as you can see, I'm passionate about this issue. I've gone on way too long. And I know there are others with far more eloquent than I am to support this motion, so we'll finish it. Just going forward to say, on my motion, I've said we oppose it. I would just like to add an addendum to that, if that's acceptable for the council, to say that if the government do wish to continue to make changes to the inheritance tax that affects farmers, that before doing so, full consultation takes place with the farming sector, so then get set at the right level. Thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, we have,
Oh, no, I won't. No. That's right now.
sorry, this is working now. Councillor Ricky Knight.
Thank you, Chair. Well, thank you for that, Councillor Bullitt, particularly what you said at the end, because I do support that. But I suppose I'm going to speak against this. With respect to Councillor Bullitt and several of my council colleagues, I find I cannot support this motion as it stands, as I disagree with the wording of the resolutions. Everyone in this chamber and everyone I know is completely on side in regard to the plight of small farms. This council could not do more to prove our support. A farmers' revolt is coming, we read. Indeed, this was manifested yesterday in London when an impressively supported demonstration took this message to Parliament. Farmers are indeed angry. Join the queue. Nurses, teachers, railway workers, office workers, small businesses, climate activists, anti-migrant activists, pensioners. It's a long list.
Postman.
When the postman, thank you, unemployed postman. When the likes of Farage, the man who engineered Brexit and caused immeasurable harm to the farming sector, when gentleman farmer Jeremy Clarkson, Victoria Atkins wrapped in a Union Jack, when they and Robinson's followers from the far right join the throng, I'm sure to the embarrassment of the organisers, it becomes clear that this is a return to the traditional identification of our two main political affiliations after the Tories broke the Red Wall in 2019 and then Starmer started wooing the rural heartlands. Well, he's lost them now. Farming is undergoing an existential crisis created by global and business pressures beyond any government's control. The justifiable furore over the AIH inheritance tax, the IHT hike from Reid's budget, is as nothing compared to what has gone on before and what lies ahead when, if Trump's trade tariffs hit the UK and Starmer is forced to negotiate with a protectionist who holds all the aces. Most of us here are in an echo chamber where we feel most comfortable. I'm sure mine is a lot different to many of yours. I've been inundated, I know a lot of you have, with, if you like, one-sided or two-sided standoffs. Not comfortable, but nonetheless. Yesterday, sorry, I lost my place typically. Yesterday, I received North Devon District Council email from me, a Sky News article. Why? Why not a far more erudite and balanced viewpoint from the Observer's Will Hutton, from which I could quote extensively. Was it fake news when the Prime Minister announced that his government had inherited a 22 billion black hole? If not, what is the government supposed to do? Something our officers here have to do all the time, namely ensure we make every attempt to balance the books. If the PM says, as he did, that he is absolutely confident that the vast majority of farms will be exempt, that 73% of estates with agricultural property would not be affected, well, of course, anyone has the right to not believe him. Not believing what politicians say is increasingly the default attitude, one which impacts upon every council in the country. For me, taxing the rich, the ones who own the land, the ones who use every trick in their accountants' books to avoid and evade paying their dues, is exactly what I consider this budget IHT statement is about. We were told back in June that this was going to be painful and much will misfire. Riverford's Geising with Watson, I hope some of you have seen his article, has shown a responsible way forward, one which could assuage the genuine concerns of small family farms and claw back some of the effortlessly inherited wealth of those landowners, the ones who squeeze the pips out of their tenant farmers. This has morphed into political posturing, which is such a shame. This should not be about left and right. It should be about the haves and the have-nots. Thank you.
Right, sorry. Councillor Maddox, you had your hand up next, and Councillor Lever.
Thank you. As might be expected, I will support this motion, most definitely. I disagree with most of what previous councillors said, but not all, I must admit. This is a missed opportunity by government to actually address the principal problems that there are there within taxation. And it is a bit akin to giving everybody that goes back the Link Road tonight a parking ticket, or a speeding ticket, sorry, because 1% of them have been speeding. Unfortunately, that's the situation. They will not address the problem of the big corporate investment in land inflating price by the approach that's taken here. They will not address the problem of lifestyle buyers outpricing local people to buy their house, their pony paddocks and posted rail fencing, and the obligatory manage that comes with it. So in reality, we have a problem in some ways in that I have to support this motion. I think government needs to go back and think realistically about what it's doing. This is an absolutely vindictive, unfair approach to taxation. And come back with something that's realistic and will actually address the tax. I have no reason to believe that there should be a way of avoiding tax if it's due. But let's make sure that that tax is appropriate, fair, and proportionate. This is very much the opposite. DEFRA and Treasury can't even agree on their own figures on this one. DEFRA say 66% of farms will be affected. Treasury say 30%. As was suggested in the House today, that maybe you have to ask real economists, not ones that pretend. It is indeed a rarity, quite honestly, to see two opposition parliamentary parties that are absolutely in complete agreement at the moment with opposing this form of taxation. And both the Conservative and the Liberal Democrat parliamentary parties are absolutely definitive about their objection to this approach to taxation. I will support that, and if it hasn't been seconded, I'm quite willing to second it. Thank you.
Councillor Lever.
Thank you very much. I will say that I very much support the thrust of this motion. I mean, we've got another government, another set of measures that come down centrally, imposed on us by people who do not understand our communities and do not understand the rural way of living. As with previous motions that we've put forward over since I've been a councillor, over no fault evictions, over the loss of winter fuel payments, we definitely ought to be writing to government and letting them know how our communities feel about this. But so often it's local councils like North Devon who are at the forefront of dealing with the outcomes of these measures that are imposed on us centrally. I'd very much like to support Councillor Bullett's motion. I'd like to put forward an amendment that commends the work that North Devon councils and local authorities and officers in North Devon are already doing to help the farming community here, and to commit the council to continue to explore opportunities to help maintain a viable and sustainable farming community here in North Devon.
I'll second that amendment, Chair.
Right, so we have an amendment, a proposed amendment, and it's been seconded by councillor Hunt.
I'm happy to.
Councillor Bullock, so that. It's the second.
Yes.
Lovely. So I've got, councillor Warden next, please.
Thank you. Many of you will know that I actually come from a farming family. I left farming because we only had a rented farm, and I saw nothing but a struggle to make ends meet if I continued the family tradition, even though my late wife was also a farmer's daughter. But now the government's decision regarding inheritance tax will, in the long run, make much of farming unviable. Looking on the internet, farms for sale in North Devon, the cheapest I could find advertised was at Chumley for a small 120 acre farm priced at just over 1.5 million, whereas a farm at Bideford for 260 acres was priced at just under 6 million. So for a small farm at today's prices in Northern Devon, those inheriting them from their parents would have to pay over 100,000 in inheritance tax, and for a farm that isn't large, it would be probably £1 million. Now that's totally unrealistic, as well as being totally unreasonable. This is going to cause sleepless nights, mental anguish, and young people to leave farming altogether, as they will feel that they haven't any choice. Saddled with £1 million debt is just out of the question for the large majority. The government suggests that it will only affect 500 farms a year. That's 500 too many. And I don't mind, or I don't think that they've actually got their figures right in any case. Unless changed, this has the potential to completely ruin the agricultural industry and put a blight on our countryside. Food production will drastically suffer, and so will our balance of payments. We will need to import more of our food with all the risks that that entails, and prices will potentially rocket, causing more inflation. I read recently that already over 8 million people in the UK cannot afford to eat properly. This government policy must change for the sake of millions, not just the farmers. I will certainly support this motion, and I urge that we all support it to show that what a disaster this would be if this tax is not rescinded. This tax is a slap in the face for farmers, and so I would urge everyone to support the motion that's been brought tonight. Thank you.
Next, we have councillor Milton.
Yeah, your name's Maddox.
Councillor Maddox. Councillor Hunt, did you want to speak?
No, I just was seconding the.
Amendment. Councillor Crabb, in that case.
I'll be brief because obviously the sugar will be dissolved otherwise, won't it? I just like to point out, I mean, laziness is my special subject, let's be honest. But I think this government now has given a couple of examples of how I think they've been lazy. I think this is where these numbers are coming from. The heating allowance was just a quick line drawn in the sand. Right, if you got that, there's no effort to make it administered properly. And this is the same. There is an issue here in the fact that, yes, Jeremy Clarkson probably shouldn't be spending £5 million on a farm to avoid inheritance tax. But at the same time, there are a lot of people for whom this shouldn't apply, but it's just been done lazily, it's been done idly, and it's done badly. And I think there should be some proper work done to see if there is a system that you prefer to that can be done properly. Agreed with all that. A couple of things that you all be aware of. This thing that the government said about, oh, it's only 500 farms. It's 500 farms a year. So, you know, in terms of a generation, which is what, 30 years? That's 15,000 all of a sudden. So there's a lot of numbers involved. I'm not going to add anything more to the debate. I just think it's, I'll support it obviously, but thank you.
There's nobody else that wants to speak, would like to take it to the vote. It's been proposed by councillor Bullen, seconded by councillor Cran. All those in favour? Against?
Sorry, Chair, what do we do? Didn't we not have an amendment?
The amendment was.
Sweet.
Yeah. Any against? Yes, that's passed. Any abstentions? That's passed. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Item 7, declarations of interest. Do you have any that haven't been given to the clerk before the meeting? Right. Okay. Item 8, we have none. Item 9, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B. There is no Part B. Item 10, the report of the leave of the council. Hopefully you all had a chance to read it. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take it as read if that's okay. Happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions on the leader's report?
Yes, I.
I'd just like to make the comment that the visit of our leader and deputy to South Molton Town Council was very well received. And I'd like to think that that's a process that will continue because it is a very valuable way of actually communicating with our parish councils. So thank you very much for coming. It was a great thing that you did. Well done.
Thank you. That's that report. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Just to say as well,
not working yet. We have Councillor Lever and myself are going to Lanky, and hopefully Swimbridge will come along as well. I'll ask that Swimbridge and Lanky Parish Council, and that's on the 4th of December. If you want, hopefully, if that gets sorted with the council, so the councillors, Outgrove and Councillor Lane. Who else is there? That's it, isn't it? It's just
That's enough.
it's a treat for those, yeah, so it'd be good to see you there. Thank you.
That report was to know. Thank you. Item 11, questions by members unsubmitted. Item 12, lead member reports. Firstly, we have the report for lead member housing, Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Chair. I will take this as read, if that's okay. I will take any questions, but I would like to ask if there are any questions. Could I return a report in, could I return in writing rather than giving a verbal response now?
Councillor Lane.
Only point I'd like to make, if possible, may be helpful, Councillor Cran went on the last time. Would it be helpful if you had the lead members' names on the top of it as well? Because we're not the only ones who read it. If you've got members of the public looking at our agendas, I suppose it'd be nice to know who the lead members is as well. Well, Mr. Cran was probably saying last week, Lloyd looked last month, but Lloyd got rid of Queen. But I was thinking, could it be helpful to do that? Thank you.
Councillor Price.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to pick up actually, because I noticed that in the leader's report, he did send the update tonight's meeting about the local plan workshop. And Councillor Bell's also mentioning it in his. I just wanted to say thank you to the members that did come. We've got, and I think it was a really successful day. You know, and certainly the officers felt that members were engaged and they felt that the members were beginning to get ownership of the process. We've got a set of the working groups
a week on Friday. So I'll just remind members, if you are nominated, please turn up. If you can't, please get a substitute or speak to the group leader to make sure we've got a full, because all four of them are meeting on that Friday, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. So just to say thank you very much for those that did. I know Councillor Bell mentions that there were more Torridge. I think Campstown is a difficult place for a lot of people that live 20 miles the other side of Barnstaple to get there. And certainly for me, it takes me the best part of an hour to get there when you've got to be there for 9 o'clock. So, you know, I think it's a super venue when you get there, but I just think our experience yesterday, having the car parking meeting in Node, you know, there are other, you know, especially for the smaller groups, working party, let's see if we can make it easy and encourage members to turn up. The local plan is going to be a huge bit of work. It may well be before or just after Christmas that we'll know confirmation on the MPPF, and then the work will really start. Many difficult decisions that we can be forced to make. But I just wanted to say thank you for that. Sorry, David. Sorry, Leader. You know, I just think it's worth updating members on that day. But thanks very much. Yeah, and thank you, Malcolm Wilkinson, for arranging that. Did you see that? I just wanted. Thank you, Bob.
I would actually echo everything that Councillor Prowse has just said. If anybody is on the working group and they can't make it, it would be really helpful if you can arrange a substitute, because it makes them work so much better when we've got a good cross section of councillors at these events. Councillor Bell, you wanted to come in.
Sorry, Chair, it was just really, as Councillor Prash just said, we were massively outnumbered by Torridge councillors who obviously share our viewpoints, but it was a little bit unbalanced.
Councillor Clayton.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
And thank you, Councillor Price, for pointing out that I did say data. I forgot all about that. Unfortunately, next Friday I am at a funeral in Oldham, which I'm going to go to. I've asked my group for substitutes and nobody's come forward. So really, I'm asking anybody else. This is the economy and planning one, isn't it? It's in Brownswell. So if anybody on the council, any member who wants to take my place on that, would be much appreciated, please. And just drop me an email and I'll sort it out. I'll try and put an email around to everybody. You know, the 10 members come forward. So going back to the housing now, are there any other questions? Because I would like to personally say a massive thank you to Councillor Bell. This is we had a report from Councillor Watkinson. He was a guinea pig, he was the lead member, and he did his verbally very well last time. Councillor Bell has started with the written report. It's a very thorough report, and it does reflect actually the incredible hard work that I know he has put in, along with the housing team, with the new housing strategy that we've got that people can be involved in. Really, things are beginning to move in the housing sector, and we know that things have to, because it's such a dire situation in North Devon that we're all aware of. So I would like to personally record thanks to Councillor Bell and his team for everything they've done. So thank you very much.
Okay, we just need to note that report, thank you. I now call on Councillor Ricky Knight for the report from the lead member for climate and biodiversity.
Thanks, Jen. Yes, item 12B. I commend my report to my colleagues. Maybe I'll get a full support this time. Thank you.
Members, are there any questions for Councillor Ricky Knight?
Hi, yeah, just a quick question. Thank you for your report. But you're saying that in line with many councils, their 2030 target is not going to happen. So I just wondered what you thought the main thing would be to focus on to try and achieve as much as possible in lieu of that target.
I thank the honourable member for that benign question. I think I alluded.
Mike, could you stand, please?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. Be upstanding. No, that joke's been made.
Can't say that.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for that report. I do allude to this at the end of my report. I've been doing it. Obviously, we hit the Gazette last week, as or most of you will know from the last strategy from the sources meeting. Alison Stevenson made a full report on that and highlighted the fact that unfortunately we're not going to achieve net zero by 2030 in-house, and exactly the same confession, if you like, was made by Devon County Council and will be made, I'm sure, over the next few months by just about every council in the land. It's unfortunate, given that the government said it's going to be 2035 now, etc. So we are struggled with impossible targets, as I pointed out. The red diesel in Ilfracombe, there's nothing we can do about that. But there are things we will do, I'm sure, but it's going to take time, it's going to take money. For instance, the electrification of the refuse fleet takes up a huge part of our carbon footprint. I'm pretty certain it's going to happen. The difficulty would be the leaseholding and obviously the cost of purchasing and the grid, I'm sure. But nonetheless, that will be a massive positive improvement in our incremental steps towards reducing our carbon footprint, although it might not be by 2030. Similarly, we've got lots of roofs buying up solar panels, and again, that's what we need to do. We generate our own electricity. I have to remain optimistic. My age, I want to get there. We all want to get there, but it's moving an aspiration a little too high for 2030. Thank you for your question.
Councillor Bushell.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask Councillor Knight how he thinks agriculture can fit within the work that we're doing. I recently put in a planning application using Class Q, which is generally used by people in agriculture. And I was asked by the officers to comply with that legislation to remove the solar panels from the roof. But I think that you want to support agriculture and it as a key industry. And how do you think you can tie through? And do you think you can work with planning to make sensible decisions with planning applications and not have what's been moved going on? I would be submitting the full application now and back in again. It just seems like extra bureaucracy for the sake of bureaucracy.
It's not been thought through by the government.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Bushell. Yes, I will openly state my support for agriculture and what it can do. That's a good final stance. After all, agriculture is an essential ingredient for healthy living and well-being. With regard to specific reference to planning legislation, if you like, seemingly being irrational, I do concur. I think in knocking an open door, there are existing legislative restrictions on putting solar panels on agricultural buildings or new builds and or old builds, I should say. And we have to fight them in a way. And I'm sure I'm on planning, as you know, and we look at them very carefully, and that will always be one of my focal points. The extent to which planning applications tick a lot of our environmental and cultural boxes. Thank you for the question.
I'd just like to point out this is another reason why we all need to go to these meetings about the vision workshops and about updating the NPPF and things like that, so we can have a say in what we can do with our buildings in this area. So, Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say thank you again to Councillor Ricky Knight for his report. Not an easy portfolio at all, and yet probably the most important one in the whole of council and the whole of the country, with respect to different councils. 30%, Councillor Wilson referred to, we're not going to hit it, it's in the report, like every other council in the country. not going to hit it. Maybe we shouldn't have been so idealistic, maybe, but in these cases you've got to go for it as much as possible. It's aspirational now. It's incremental steps. So I keep saying to people, look, we're not going to hit 30%, but each little step is important, and you've pioneered various initiatives, and thank you for those. And we're just going to keep at it. I'm on the climate change committee, as you know. All councillors are welcome to put in suggestions to that. I hope they will do and monitor what's going on. But it is such an important one. I hope we can promote it worth more in the council and strive to achieve even better. But thank you for the start you've given us anyway. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Everybody, we will just note that report. Now move on to item 13, the performance and financial management quarter 2 2024-25, which is pages 41 to 102 of the document plan. Yeah, are there any questions on that? This has already been through strategy and resources and obviously. Yes. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Lane, Councillor Norman second. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Item 14, media treasury management report. Again, do we have any questions on this? No, can I see the mover? Councillor Lever, seconded Councillor Bell. All those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Item 15, statement of accounts 2023-2024. It's a report by our Chief Financial Officer and the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I'm here to present the statement of accounts for 23-24 to enable them to be fully signed and adopted. The report and recommendations start in 2.1 on page 121 of your pack, followed by the full statement of accounts. The statutory date for completing the public inspection period had to be commenced for the first working day in June. As of the 3rd of June, only 65 out of 164 district councils have published their draft accounts, which is around about 40%. We were one of them. Due to the national resource pressures within the audit sector, a significant number of audits have been carried out. We're only one of the ones of the small authorities that have had their 23-24 accounts audited. Some authorities go back unaudited a number of years. The external audit of the accounts was carried out by Bishop Fleming. The audit of the financial statements took place throughout August and September and was concluded in October. The audit findings report went to the 12th of November Governance Committee last Tuesday. Bishop Fleming reported an unqualified opinion on the financial statements. There were 4 recommendations, combination of medium and low recommendations, and these are all in the key finding reports. These recommendations were accepted by management and responsible into the action plan. Leaving the accounts to be formally signed off by full council 20th November this evening. I just want to quickly just take you through the statement of accounts to see you understand the details of it. So the narrative report starts on page 124 to 134. This sets out the challenges we faced, how we aim to meet those challenges, and also reviews the last financial year 23-24. The challenges faced by the country include cost of living pressures, previous high inflation rates, which rose from 2.9% at the start of 21-22 financial year to 11.1% by April 22. With double-digit inflation continuing for the whole of 22-23, peaking at 14.2% in October 22. 23-24 had seen a gradual easing, finishing the year at 4.3%. However, even though inflation has now reduced down, those inflationary impacts seen over the last 2 years are baked into our current base and will continue to be incurred. A number of these inflationary increases have been built into the 24-25 budget and the medium-term financial strategy, and will continue to be captured these additional costs, and we're sure that they'll be fed into the quarterly performance report this year. The review of the 23-24 position starts on page 127. The Q3 position reported a forecast of a net surplus of £73,000. Favourable variances seen in the last quarter, most notably additional business rate income, meant the final outturn position achieved a net budget surplus of £630,000. Tables on pages 128 and 129 detail the main variances. As I've alluded to already, the movement from Q3 of £557,000 can be mainly attributed to the £760,000 additional business rate income achieved in the year. There are some other smaller adverse and favourable variances detailed on pages 129. The options for the £630,000 surplus was to commit the following amounts to the earmarked reserves: corporate property income volatility reserve £150,000, insurance reserves £280,000, and the digital transformation financial system reserve £200,000. Green Lane Shopping Centre. Members approved in June 21 to receive the acquisition of the Green Lane Shopping Centre, which the council completed the purchase in November 21. Purchase of the Green Lane Shopping Centre was a once-in-lifetime opportunity to acquire the strategic asset and complement other significant regeneration improvements being delivered in the Barnstable Town Centre through the future High Street projects. The financial modelling demonstrated that the revenue income generated from the centre will cover both the repayment of loan and asset management costs, and will return a contribution to the council which will be used towards mitigating future risks on income volatility, investment back into the centre, and overarching council budgets. The financial outturn for the centre produced a net return, which is the income less cost, for 21-22 of £243,600, 22-23 £291,000, and 23-24 £237,000, although this did include £150,000 from the income volatility reserve due to the financial impact of Lipton Wilco in August 23. This is a positive return for the council and is in line with our original forecasting. So moving on to North Devon Council earmark reserves as at 31st of March 24. The general fund had a balance of 1.238 million. Earmark reserves had 10.56 million. The breakdown of these can be seen in note 11 on pages 181 to 182. The balances leave the council in a strong position to deal with the challenges it faces moving into 24-25. It was positive for the council to be able to put these balances into the reserves at the year end, especially after such a challenging year. Medium-term financial strategy 24 to 2030 on pages 125 to 126. These figures are refreshed annually and will come back to you again in February 25 as part of the budget and council tax process for 25-26. Continued pressure and uncertainty on the council's funding sources remain, as the government's fair funding review and business rates retention changes originally planned for the 24-25 year again have been delayed by a further 2 years into at least April 26. The medium-term financial strategy shows a balanced budget for 24-25 with a £487,000 gap for 25-26, moving to a gap of 3.263 million by 29-30. The tables on page 126. Now I'd just like to run through the main statements and important elements within the main statements. That's pages 143 to 148. The comprehensive I&E statement on page 143 includes a number of non-cash accounting entries that are reversed out so they don't impact the council taxpayer. These are reversed out through the movement and reserve statement on page 145 with a total reversal of 18.216 million. The end result is no movement in the general fund balance, and that remained at 1.238 million. Details can be seen in the movement reserve statement on page 145, showing that the usable reserves are 17.5 million, up from 16 million the previous year, Unusable reserves are 107 million on page 193, and a total net worth on the balance sheet of 125 million pounds. The balance sheet on page 146 shows net assets of the council totaling 125 million, being an increase of 18 million from the 22-23 financial year. The main movements can be summarised as follows. Long-term assets, 14 million pound increase to 143 million. Note 15 on page 184 shows further details of this. The main movements include the revaluation reserve increase of 8 million, additions and asset enhancements of 9 million, and depreciation of 4 million. Long-term liabilities, these decreased by 4 million. The main movements being finance lease liability increased by 1.3 million, and the pension fund liability, the net liability decreased by 5 million. This was mainly as a result of the changes in the financial assumptions and the calculations, including changes to the discount rate, pension increase assumptions, and salary increase assumptions. Further analysis of the pensions is in note 42 on pages 206 to 211. This gives more detailed information. The fund history for the last 6 years is shown on table 209, and it shows the liability moving from 62 million through to 8.5 million for 23-24. Pension deficits were offset by the same balance in the unusable reserves note on page 27, on note 27, page 193. Pensions deficit will be made good by increasing contributions over the remaining working life of the employees, as assessed by the actuary every 3 years. They call this triennial review. The next review date is November 25 for the 26-27 financial years moving forwards. Cash flow statement on page 147. This details how North Council generates and uses its cash and cash equivalents. The collection fund details can be found in pages 148 and 149. As North Devon District Council is the billing authority and collects all the monies, it accounts for the council tax and business rate income and how it shares between major precepting authorities and central government. Accounting policies are on pages 150 to 169. This details the rules and concepts in preparing the accounts, and there are no material changes to the 23-24 year. The notes for the accounts are pages 170 to 218. These are the disclosure notes and further analysis of the figures in the main statements, which we've already talked through. The draft auditor's report, this is produced once the audit has been concluded, and following the conclusion of the audit and presentation of their audit findings report to the Governance Committee last Tuesday, 12th of November, the draft opinion agreed is shown on pages 219 to 224, and the opinion is that the financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the authority as at 31st of March 24. This moves us on to the recommendations, which is 2.1, page 121 of your pack, that the statement of accounts for 23-24 be approved, and that the chair of the council sign and date the accounts as required by the audit and accounts and audit regulations 2015. Please, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Norman, did you have a this one?
Very much. I'd like to commend the team for all the hard work over the summer months. It was an excellent presentation. I just wanted to outline some of the points made by the auditor. As I mentioned, that Bishop Fleming are external. This is the first time they're auditing us. I think it's always good to have a new auditor. Once again, we've got a good report from them, but some extracts really. Our testing, this is their words, our testing review of the financial statements have not identified any significant issues these brought to attention to members. The draft accounts and working papers provided were of good quality, supporting the appropriate progression of the review process, and only a few minor amendments were required. The senior auditor fairly added to me, the audit should be considered as good. That's probably the best thing they do, Donny. Yeah. They also welcome supporting officers who have been such readily available for the process. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the statement accounts? Councillor Lane.
The RT from doing the accounts, so that's it was signed by the Air Council. That's what it says in there by the. This one deleted.
It's deleted for that one. I signed something else. Yeah.
Only they said Chair Council.
Yeah, leader of council. Can I have a mover for this? Councillor Norman, seconder, Councillor Beedman. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Thank you, that is carried. And we're now on to 15B, the annual government statement.
Thank you, Chair. The annual governance statement formally records and publishes the arrangements we have in place to ensure our functions are carried out effectively based on the core principles of the governance framework. This gives the reassurance that our decisions are lawful, public money is safeguarded, and resources are used to their best potential. Our framework includes the work of the Strategy and Resources Committee and full council in setting budgets, strategies, and corporate objectives, the work of the Governance Committee on risk management and reviewing audit reports, alongside the senior management team and risk group. Our internal auditors, the Devon Insurance Partnership, carried out 15 audits during 23-24, and their overall assessment was that we have generally sound systems of governance, risk management, and controls in place. As we've mentioned, our external auditors, Bishop Fleming, have recently completed their value for money review, and again, they've concluded that we have proper arrangements to secure economic, efficient, and effective use of our resources. In connection to their governance review, they found we had no significant weaknesses in our arrangements. However, there were some areas we identified in our own assessment, and these have been set out for you in Appendix D of your report on page 275, with the latest note on progress today. The full assessment of our governance arrangements can be found in Appendix C. The draft annual governance statement was agreed by the Governance Committee back in June 24. Therefore, the recommendation before Council is to approve the AGS as part of signing of the 23rd.
Councillor Bell.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting, and I managed to follow it, which is fantastic. It's just one question or one observation, if you don't mind, and following on from something Councillor Lane said earlier regarding names at the top. On each principle, at the moment they would say that the previous recommendations have been completed. It would be wonderful to see what those previous recommendations were, so we know what has been completed, and then even if, just in summary, just because it just adds stuff out.
Yeah, happy to do that.
Councillor Beedman.
Very quickly, well done, Alan, very good. Just interested on, I could have stand that page 251 appendix, the North Midland Facebook page and other social media channels, but it then doesn't mention Facebook page, it only mentions Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. But I can tell you we have got 12,000 followers on Facebook. It's just interesting. I didn't get the figures. Facebook, I wonder why. And then, I read your I will have this input next time. You got more? Yeah, anyway.
Could I have a mover for that report, please? Councillor Norman, seconder. Councillor Clayton. All those in favour? Against? Abstain? Thank you, that's carried. Item 15C, letter of recommendation on behalf of the councillor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just briefly going to present item 15, the letter of representation. This is the final piece of the jigsaw of the 23-24 accounts. The letter of representation has gone through the Governance Committee last week and was agreed by members, and now comes here tonight for sign off by full council. We have now signed and agreed the set of accounts and have a clean audit opinion, along with a signed annual governance statement. This is the letter back to the auditors, Bishop Fleming, and is confirming we have disclosed and reported all transactions in line with the 23-24 Code of Practice, and to the best of our knowledge, are free of material misstatement. I'd like to recommend that the chair signs the letter to officially close off the accounts. I thank members for listening and I'll take any questions.
Do we have any questions? Can I seek a move them, please? Councillor Crown, seconder. Councillor Norman. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's passed, thank you. Item 16, half-year report of the Chair of the Governance Committee, Councillor Norman.
I assume we'll take that as read, and if you have any questions, please raise them. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just open that report. Thank you very much, Councillor Norman. Item 17, a request for a waiver of a 6-month council attendance rule.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully the report is self-explanatory. Provisions in the Local Government Act, as members are aware, mean that if a councillor is absent from meetings for in excess of 6 months, then they are automatically disqualified. Because of unfortunate circumstances with councillors Denton and Spear this year, they haven't been able to attend and are unlikely to be able to attend beyond 6 months. So this report is asking for members to approve their continued absence for ill health reasons. In the case of Councillor Denton, for 3 months up until the 10th of June 2025, and in the case of Councillor Spear, for 3 months beyond 6 months up until the 18th of April 2025. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think we ought to also submit our best wishes and for speed and recovery for both members.
Chair, I was actually going to add that. I was hoping to be able to add that as well, but I just wanted to say from Councillor Liz being a sister that she does appreciate dozens of, from both staff and members, dozens of messages of goodwill. And Neil too, I think, appreciates everybody's support. We hope to see them both back here soon. And ironically, I think they're going to be undergoing some treatment together. So perhaps they can share some secrets of how to be a successful councillor. And I might learn a bit.
Thank you. Councillor Beaman.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't know if this needs proposal or seconded, but it does. I'll second Malcolm's proposal and reiterate what he said on with Ken for his comments. And like I say, we wish him a speedy recovery and tough times for both families.
Councillor Hunt.
Okay, Chair, I was just going to second it.
Councillor Little.
Thank you. I think this shows great progress in the council. You know that a couple of years ago, I signed off work for an amount of time. And so I didn't lose my seat. I had to come from my sick bed into a meeting. I did ask the council at that point to see whether if it's doctor or hospital sanctioned illness and verified by experts whether we could find a way around this, because it's not nice being forced to come to a meeting when you're seriously ill. So I thank Ken and the council for finding a way around calling people in when they're really not well enough to be in council. Thank you.
Councillor Bushell. We need to take a vote. We haven't moved in a sector, so could all those in favour? Against? Any abstentions? Thank you, Councillor Massey. Okay, item 18 is the Ilfracombe Healthy Homes and Community Land Trust and Combined County Authority bids.
I'll take this one, Chair. Members will recall mention of the £16 million capital fund that was associated with the County Combined Authority Agreement. 4 district councillors were asked to bid into that fund. We put in 3 bids and were successful with 2. And this report deals with those 2 successful bids. So the first one is for a grant of £1,980,000. And the project that we submitted for that was the Ilfracombe Healthy Homes project, whereby we purchase units in Ilfracombe, renovate them, and let them as an ethical landlord. The second project was for the Community Land Trust, and that's where we were recirculating funds of £810,000 to free up money that had already been allocated to then further allocate that money to subsequent CLT schemes. Both of those schemes have been approved, as I mentioned, and we're now currently working towards signing the grant agreements with government and with Devon County Council. There are very strict and very tight timetables for delivery of both of those schemes, so the money has to be spent by March 2025, which is going to be extremely challenging, but we are endeavouring to ensure that we spend it within that time period. This report itself asks members to approve the use of that allocated fund for those 2 projects, and also deals with the capital allocation. So recommendation 2.2 is asking members to vary the capital programme by £2,790,000, and that the fund be released for those projects subject to the signing of the final grant agreements. Happy to answer any questions, members.
Councillor Craven.
Thanks for that, Ken, and thank you for the effort that you put in and the teams and efforts gone behind this. And as you know, right from the early days in the Water Sports Centre or whatever, you know, it's come along and we are where we are today. Very little to say on it, apart from the fact that they are 2 well managed and excellent schemes. It's free money, woohoo! And I think this really should deliver some decent housing and make a difference in, especially the 2 million one in some of the poorer areas, should make a difference there. So I thoroughly commend it, and I'll be the first to propose it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that, please? Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Wilkinson, yes.
I'm obviously happy to second the proposal there, and to reiterate the comments made by Councillor Crabb in respect to the CLT scheme in Woodland. We are very close to now digging the first bit of land to get our houses going on. Wellington, 21 dwellings, all affordable or social rent is a big gain for our village, I think.
Any other comments before we go to the vote? Those in favour? Against? Abstentions? That's passed. Item 19, North Devon Highways and Traffic Orders Committee, outside of the appointment, to consider the appointment of councillors to replace councillors on the top committee, Councillor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair. Nothing sinister in this. It's basically like for like. It's linked to item 17, Councillor Liz Spear. So the suggestion of the move is that we can replace Councillor David Knight with Councillor Graham Bell and replace Councillor Liz Spear with Councillor June Williams on Hattock. We were hoping that Hattock might allow substitutes, but they don't. It's an outside body, so we've gone with this and hopefully there's nobody against it. It's like for the 10 members. So I'll propose that those 2 are replaced by the judges. Someone could second.
Any comments or questions, members? Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Norman. All those in favour? Against? Abstention? That's passed. Thank you. Item 20 minutes for committees. Can we take these on block, please?
Yep.
So moved.
Second. All those in favour? Against? Abstentions? Lovely, that's passed. Thank you very much for your attendance. I will see you after Christmas.